Good morning and welcome. We are continuing our video devotions through the book of 2 Samuel with 2 Samuel chapter 10. We are so glad to have you with us today. Now, I have a question before we get to 2 Samuel 10. Do you find it easy to trust others, especially people you don't really know? Do you find it easy to trust other people? I don't know about you, but sometimes I struggle with that. Sometimes my natural inclination towards others is to be a little bit more skeptical or pessimistic even, maybe that's the right term. Sometimes I find it difficult to trust other people. And see, I ask that question because here in 2 Samuel 10, we get a story about what can happen if you fail to trust other people, if you take more of a pessimistic look, more of a skeptical look at someone when they offer to do something nice for you. And our story is pretty straightforward. The Ammonites were a people that lived near the kingdom of Israel. And one day the king of the Ammonites passed away, and he had been nice, kind, gracious to King David and to the Israelites during his life. So David decided that he would extend that graciousness to the new king, the son of the king of the Ammonites who had passed away. Well, as we read in our text, this new king of the Ammonites is suspicious of David's goodwill, and he does something to really anger King David. He brings shame upon the delegation that David had sent to extend goodwill. And as we read, David did not respond kindly to that at all. And anyway, the Ammonites and the Israelites go to war with each other, and it's not a war that turns out so well for the Ammonites as we've seen. But like I began with this morning, really the crux of our chapter this morning relates to the king of the Ammonites' inability to trust King David, his inability to see that even though they were different nations, nations that maybe in the past had some historical or disagreements or wars even, he was just unwilling to trust King David, to think that King David maybe did have good intentions and wanted to have a good relationship with him. And that got me thinking about how in our own lives, so often in our world, we are taught or we're influenced or people try to get us to naturally just distrust others, especially those that are different than us. We see it a lot in our politics. We see it a lot in just a myriad of ways about how we live in a society that so often wants to divide us against each other and to lead us to assume the worst about others' intentions, especially others who have different beliefs, different opinions than us. And see, I think that there's an important lesson for us as Christians that we can see sometimes in David's story, but certainly in the Gospels, is that we must remember that every human being is made in the image and likeness of God. It's a human whom God created and whom God declared very good. And if we're going to be Christians, if we're going to love our neighbors as ourselves, we have to at least be willing to trust other people and to assume somewhere deep down there's that image and likeness of God in them. Deep down there's something very good, and perhaps it's our responsibility, our calling, to help them become the people, the very good people that God created them to be. So I think we get a very interesting story this morning in 2 Samuel 10, a story that should challenge us to think about how do we view other people, especially those maybe that we don't always agree with, those who share different beliefs or different opinions than us. Are we willing to trust them, to see the good in them, to view them as fellow human beings made in the image and likeness of God? Or do we allow the powers of this world to seek to divide us against those people? But anyway, that's a lot to think about on a Thursday morning. But I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday for 2 Samuel chapter 11.